urban issue unit, which is section A of paper 2. And section A always looks at cities. Okay, so the first question here is, what is a megacity? Nice and simple. 1 mark. You have to say it's a city of more than 10 million people. Okay, the 10 million is critical for you getting the 1 mark. Okay. You're then shown a figure 1, which shows megacities in 2015 and 2030. You can see the number has changed significantly. In red are all the megacities, and the question number 1.2 says, complete the following paragraph to describe the changes shown by the map 2015-2030. To choose 3 correct answers from this list, and 3 correct answers here are Southern Asia. So the greatest increase in the number of megacities shown in Southern Asia. You can clearly see down there, Southern Asia has got a huge increase. There are no new megacities in half of the continents in 2030 map. The reason it's half is because Antarctica is 1 continent, there's no increase there. North America is another continent, there's no increase there. And Europe is another continent, and there's no increase there. Okay, and Oceania is another continent there. Okay. And the continents of, and in this case, Africa, show 100% growth in number of megacities. Africa will basically, you go from 3 megacities, Cairo, Lagos, and Kinshasa, to 6. Okay, so that's 100% increase. We then have 1.3. You've got a nice pie chart, and the question says, describe the pattern of spending in figure 2. Figure 2 shows the household spending in low-income countries. You can clearly see that most of the money, about 62% of the household's income in a low-income country is spent on food. Okay, describe the pattern. That in itself is, you get your 1 mark. 62% of household income is spent on food, and then the second mark would be something along the lines of other spending combined are approximately, you could say, with exception of transport, are about 15%. Okay, not 15, 25%. Sorry. So that could be another way of getting the second mark. Okay, you just basically have to make another statement with data from the figure. For question 1.4, you then have a picture here of this. It says picture here of a slum in Manila in the Philippines in Southeast Asia. It says suggest 1 opportunity for people shown in figure 3. You can see lots of people working there. It's a 2-mark question, and if you've seen the video on how to I get full marks in geography, you have to make a point and explain it. Suggest 1 opportunity. Well, one there is they can collect and recycle material that they can then sell on and make a profit with. Okay, so it's basically providing informal employment to people. Okay, so collect rubbish and resell it, part of the informal sector. Okay, often those might be unskilled migrants, and they will try and salvage some material that is being thrown away. Question number 1.5, the mark schemes, I'll leave it on the side here. It says, using figure 3, remember, figure 3 is this picture here of the Philippines, and a case study of a city in an LIC or NEE to assess the challenges of providing service to the city's population. In the case of Redland Green School, we've been learning about learned about Lagos in Nigeria, which is a city in NEE. Okay, so there you need to bring your Nigerian knowledge and Lagos knowledge, and you need to bring your Philippines, just facts from there. Okay, the first one, the first things you can talk about when you look at the mark scheme here, it says command word assess requires appraisal of the scale of the task. So you have to talk about you have to talk about how difficult it is and why it's so difficult. Okay, so for example here it says, well, 600,000 growth per year in Lagos from population wise, when resources available to meet demands are limited in poor countries. Also, there's poor provision of physical services, which is a challenging point from which to start. For instance, only 40% of Lagos is waste is collected. Okay, then you've got another few facts down here for Rio, for those who study Rio. But ultimately, the main reason is to assess the challenge. Well, the way I'd look at it is I'd make 1-piece paragraph. I talk about the challenge. So in this case, I talk about the high population growth. I give some data, which is here in the mark scheme. I'd explain why population growth provides a challenge. It's because it is growing faster than the country's ability to meet its demand. Example, case in point being the weight, they can only recycle 40% of the waste. You could also say, because you're assessing the challenges, you could say, well, however, there have been some solutions. Okay, so you could look about what Lagos has done to try and amend these solutions. If you talk about congestion in Lagos, you could talk about the fast transit system that they've developed in Lagos. Okay, so ideally, I'd make a negative point, negative evidence, explain why the impacts of a negative point. However, give a positive because you're assessing the challenge, and give another and explain overall, do you think the challenge outweighs the positive, or vice versa. Okay. Then have here a picture of Birmingham. Looking at the life expectancy, calculate the range in life expectancy. Well, the answer is 9 years. Okay, you have to look very carefully. The highest life expectancy in this here is at 85 in Four Oaks, and the lowest life expectancy here is 76. 76 in quite a few areas in the city centre. To be fair, so that's a 9-year difference. Okay. In this case here, you've got figure 4 and your own knowledge suggests why there are inequalities in health in urban areas. Well, the main reason it is inequality in health is think about deindustrialization. Okay, so you can clearly see in Birmingham here that most low life expectancy tends to be in the city centre. Well, a lot of the times in post-industrial economies like the UK, it's because a lot of factories, city centres, inner city has declined, and deprivation has increased due to the closure of many factories and the jobs moving abroad. Okay, so that means that lots of people who live in the city centre used to be working class. They've lost their jobs, and they've, as a result of that, probably they might not have been able to find another job, and therefore have lived in poorer conditions. Okay. There's also the fact that there is worse air quality in city centres. It's something you could mention. Worse air quality means that people have more likely to develop respiratory diseases, and therefore due to the pollution caused by our cities, whereas people who live in the suburbs tend to have better quality air. Okay, so yeah, there's you could also potentially mention the direction of prevailing winds in the UK, but on the whole, you need to think about deindustrialization and access to green spaces. Okay, question 1.6, you have to say, question 1.8. One way migration has led to a change in character of a UK named city. In the case of students in Redland Green, we look at London and Bristol. In the case of here, you've got, for example, Chinatown in London. In migration from China brought a huge increase in our diversity of culture, food, and celebrations we do in London. So think of Chinese New Year, Lunar New Year. Think about Chinatown and the food and the restaurants. Okay. 1.9 is a big one. It's 9 plus 3 spag. Remember, you can't get any spag marks if you write utter waffle. It has to be related to the topic. It says, to what extent has urban change created opportunities in a UK city you have studied? And in the case of the UK city we have studied, I'd like you to talk about London and Bristol. Okay. And in this case here, to what extent has urban change created opportunities? I do a paragraph about the opportunities that have been created, and the limitations and challenges and the solutions. Okay, so for example here it says, if you use a mark scheme, opportunities for recreation and entertainment are great in cities such as museums, cinemas, concert venues, larger sport facilities, retail development, also large shopping and leisure complex centres. Okay. You can talk about migration in London, Diwali in Leicester. You can talk about Chinatown. We were discussing earlier. You can tell me how that brings benefit to the UK. Okay, you've also got cities have wider range of employment, and so in tertiary and quaternary sectors such as tourism, retail, finance, better quality life. In Bristol is a great example of that. We've got loads of insurances, banks. We've got the MOD, we've got Airbus, we've got Rolls-Royce, we've got Armand Production that creates Wallace and Gromit. There's some really high-skilled jobs in UK cities. Okay, create great opportunities. And negative side of UK cities, you can look at different industrial decline. Okay, some cities have struggled more than others, especially in northern towns such as Bradford or Sheffield or Glasgow, or ex-industrial cities. Bristol, to be fair, in the south has also had that issue. You can talk about population growth. You can talk about waste. Pollution, whether that's water, air, or light or noise even. You could talk about the decline of manufacturing, the growth of wastelands. Think of the Bristol Temple Quarter. Think of the Harbourside at the time. We did a field trip to the Harbourside. So yeah, there you really have to make a paragraph on the positives, make paragraphs on the negatives, talk about how that has changed the city, and overall say whether you think the kind of changes have been good overall or bad overall, and what your opinion is of it.